If you have all the boxes checked.
Sometimes it can be a lot of like very communication-based stuff, like eye rolling, crossing your arms. We also have studies that show that these are very communication-based attacks. So since they don't engage in a directly disruptive behavior, there's not something that they can be found guilty of. I wasn't hitting on your boyfriend. I was just walking past them in a bikini. If your boyfriend wants to look, that's his problem. What's the matter? Do you feel not confident in it? Do you feel like you're not attractive enough to keep your boyfriend? This is how they do. So the first thing that I have to say is this is one of the most important and also hardest lectures, videos that I've put together, and the reason is really simple. If you look at the internet today, misogyny is rampant. And so I'm afraid that anything that I say that talks about how women can be aggressive, women can be evil, women can be bad, will very quickly be taken as justification for further misogynistic behavior. But that's not why I'm making this video. In fact, it's something that I'm going to try very hard to avoid. So right now at the very beginning, I'm going to say this is not a video about why women are bad. This is a video about the fact that some women are bad, that some women do bully, that some women are aggressive, and that some women are even sociopathic. And the problem in today's world is that if you are faced with one of these women, whether it be a mother, whether it be a sister, whether it be someone at school, that these women can be incredibly aggressive in a very subtle and indirect way. And that this aggression can be so devastating that it can even result in death. Now, when we look at male aggression, we look at things like, violence, right? So if you look at the number of men who are in prison for murder, the number is very high. And we know that men can be violent. There's this whole thing going on the internet about would you rather be alone in the forest with a man or a bear? And most women would choose a bear because men can be deceptive, men can be aggressive, and I know a lot of men get upset about that, but let's remember that women have their experiences. The problem is that when it comes to physical aggression, we have safeguards in place, right? So I'm not saying that physical aggression is easy to avoid, but you can go to, a martial arts class and learn how to physically defend yourself. You can even get something like mace or pepper spray. If you are physically assaulted, there are places you can go. You can go to the hospital. They'll document your injuries. You can go to the police. I'm not saying that they always do a great job, but there are systems in place to protect you from physical aggression. There are scanners at the airport to make sure someone doesn't bring a gun in. The problem is that when it comes to female aggression and bullying, there aren't safeguards. Right? What do you do? What do you say when someone is bullying you? When someone is being aggressive with you in an indirect way? How do you defend yourself? And the science on female aggression shows that the majority of victims don't even feel like they're victimized. They don't even realize that they're the victims of some form of aggressive behavior. So a couple of other quick disclaimers. So this is not a video just about female bullying. While this is the weapon of choice, let's say, for female bullies, which is why we're characterizing it that way, the first thing that I want to point out to y'all, just to be clear, is that men can be indirectly aggressive, absolutely, and women can also be directly aggressive. So this is a video about teaching y'all the principles of indirect aggression. Now, why do we talk about women if we're talking about indirect aggression? Because, frankly, that's what most of the studies are on. For the same reason that if you look at something like antisocial personality disorder, or people who are sociopaths, these are much likely to be studies on men because that is the way that their sociopathy manifests. Right? So they manifest in a particular way that is violent, that is more likely, it's easier to study men. So if we're doing a study on sociopathy, we'll go to places like prisons and we'll study men. So today what we're going to do is teach you what the playbook of a female bully looks like. What are their patterns of aggression? How do women sociopaths act? And I know these are all three different things and we'll go into detail. So let's talk a little bit about female bullying and aggression. The first thing is that it is indirect, which means it isn't about doing something, it is actually about the avoidance of doing something. So it is about ignoring, exclusion, leaving you out. Sometimes it can be a lot of like very communication-based stuff like eye rolling, crossing your arms. We also have studies that show that these are very communication-based attacks, and not even communication towards you. They'll do things like spread hostile rumors, try to do things like seduce your romantic partner, hit on your romantic partner. These are all forms of female aggression. There's another important issue here, which is that girls who do this will often not engage in disruptive behavior, which is much more common in men who are bullies or boys who are bullies. So since they don't engage in a directly disruptive behavior, there's not something that they can be found guilty of, right? So if you go to your frenemy, and you say, hey, can you please stop hitting on my boyfriend? What they're going to say is, I wasn't hitting on your boyfriend. I was just walking past them in a bikini. If your boyfriend wants to look, that's his problem. What's the matter? Do you feel not confident in it? Do you feel like you're not attractive enough to keep your boyfriend? This is how they do. So the process starts with something called moving into the gray zone. Normally what happens is you have a circle of people who are all connected in some way. And the first step of the female bully is to isolate, to ostracize. So start engaging in different activities that move you into the gray zone. And this is what's so devastating about it. You can feel it happen, but it's so hard to blame them. Are you crazy? Is this really happening? Some studies show that the victims of female bullying aren't even aware that they are victims. They're made to feel stupid. They're made to feel at fault because there's no direct form of aggression. So it starts by pushing you into the gray zone. The second thing about female bullying is that it's oftentimes very group-based. So the person won't do something to you. They will say, oh, it is the group that is doing this to you. It's not me, it is all of us. And sometimes what happens is you don't have a single bully. You have 2 or 3 girls in a group of girls that dislike you. And they will work in concert. And since one of them doesn't invite you to this, you know what would be hilarious if we didn't invite this person to both of our parties? Wouldn't that be hilarious? Oh my God, that's such a great idea for a joke. So you don't get invited to one party, you don't get invited to another party. And then a third girl, someone in the group is like, hey, maybe we should invite this person. They're like, oh my God, this is so much fun. We're getting such great bonding time. So they create a situation where there is a diffusion of responsibility. It's not me that's bullying you, it's the group. It's not my fault that you're not getting invited to parties. Maybe you should work on being a better guest at a party. And once that person gets pushed to the gray zone, they will comment. They will try to defend themselves. And this is a term that's actually been quoted in the scientific literature. This creates a retaliatory action by the bully group. Once you say, hey, why aren't y'all inviting me, the bullying group responds. Maybe because you're this way or this way or this way. We didn't do anything wrong. It's all in your head. So once they push you to the edge and you decide you want to defend yourself, you call them out on their behavior. And this triggers something that's well documented in the literature called retaliatory humiliation. They've debated you. You call them out on, oh, no, it's not my fault. Why are you so crazy? Why can't you see the way that I'm... and being nice to you? Why can't you value my friendship? Why do you view the world so negatively? They blame you for attacking them. This is how it works. So if we want to defend ourselves against the cycle, we have to understand what triggers a bully, what makes it safe for a bully, as well as the sequences. There's subtle things that the literature shows that you can do to protect yourself, and we have to share those with you. So first, let's talk a little bit about the neuroscience of female aggression. So the first thing to understand is if you look at why women are less overtly aggressive than men, women are much more sensitive to the possibility of retaliation. So if you ask men, like, what would make you, attack or not attack someone else, men are okay being punished in return. So, one of the very classic things that we see in various, TV shows and things like that, right, is you see a man who's got a black eye and a bruised face and stuff like that, and you're like, wow, bro, did you get into a fight? Their response, you should see the other guy. Yeah, the other guy's way worse. men are fundamentally more comfortable with dishing out damage and receiving damage. Getting hit back is not a very good deterrent from aggression. The consequences of their aggression, men, generally speaking, care less about. The number one reason why women are less likely to be aggressive is because they are concerned about the fallout from their aggression. They're concerned about getting hit back. And we can even see like some versions of this in the animal kingdom. I think you've got to be super careful when you talk about animals and extrapolating it out to human behavior. But if we look at things like prides of lions, right? So the female lions will do the hunting because the thing that you're attacking doesn't fight back. It's about catching it, not fighting it. But when there is fighting that needs to be done, when hyenas are attacking a lion pack, it's the male lion who fights, right? So we see versions of this even within the animal kingdom. But we also know from neuroscience studies that this is probably correct. That is, it is the inhibition of retaliation that really causes women to not be aggressive. And how do we know this? Because we can look at studies of alcohol. So women are much more likely to be physically aggressive when they're drunk, just like men. But the mechanism is different. So specifically what alcohol does is when a woman is drunk, fear-based circuits that warn them, that inhibit behaviors because they say, hey, if you hit someone, that person will hit back. This is a fundamental inhibition to female aggression. And alcohol disinhibits us. So what it does is disables the fear of the consequences. There's also something really fascinating. Oxytocin increases female aggression. And you may say to yourself, well, hold on a second, Dr. K. I thought oxytocin was a bonding hormone. I thought oxytocin is the hormone that causes bonding between a mother and child. Oxytocin is the milk letdown hormone. So when women are breastfeeding, right, they have a lot of they have a lot of milk production in their breast, but how does the breast know when to release the milk? It is oxytocin that triggers breast milk release. And so you may say to yourself, but hold on a second, oxytocin is also the cuddling hormone. When people have sex and they cuddle afterward, both of their brains release oxytocin